From posing naked with a golf club to shaking the roots of the golfing world as we know it, Greg Norman has an impressive range. But being likable is something he can't seem to figure out. And with LIV, it's unlikely he'll be anyone's favorite anytime soon. If outrageous was a person, it would be Greg Norman. You've got to admit, he's as unhinged as a golfer can be. And I know, this is old news. The great white shark has been a character. It's not something he's learned now at 68. What's new is LIV Golf. Yes, being the CEO of the Rebel League made his already outrageous resume even more so, and it made the golfing world his nemesis. Sure, he always had a reputation, but be honest, before 2022, when was the last time you saw him in a bombshell headline? Exactly. No matter what, his respect as an undisputed golfing legend was still intact. But one thing about this man is that he'll see something intact and smash it to smithereens for the heck of it. So he did what made the golfing world hate him: take the wheel of a brand new golf course. But why? Why is it so serious? Well, as you can see, the golfing landscape is very different from any other sport. If other sports are clubs with loud music, golf is the quiet cafe down the street that's also a bookstore. Now, imagine blasting music in that cafe. Unacceptable, right? Well, the idea of breaking up the PGA Tour was just as blasphemous, and Norman still did it. But to make things worse, Norman's rebel machine runs on Saudi money. No, wait, it gets worse still. He refuses to let his true intentions show. Norman isn't oblivious to the controversy surrounding him and his league. But what does he have to say about it? Well, why don't we first talk about the source of his league's financing? The way Norman makes it sound, money isn't even that important in the vision of his circuit. Somewhere in the parallel universe, there's a wooden Greg, and his nose just grew a foot longer. Yep, James Marshall, his first ever manager, noted that he'd never seen anybody as materialistic as Greg. Marshall recalled that the Aussie star was easily impressed by money and people who had money. Still, the 68-year-old insists that what's important to him and his circuit is giving golfers independence and letting them do with their careers as they want. And there's a big reason people aren't buying this narrative. See, golfers happen to be very far from the exploited, oppressed athletes that the shark makes them out to be. Hell, golfers are probably one of the most pampered and well-paid athletes out there. So yeah, it's hardly about rescuing golfers from the PGA gulag. Then what motivated Norman? Apart from all that cold hard cash, of course. It was his old grudge. That's what Davis Love III thinks, and almost everyone else on the tour agrees. The Shark had more than just a successful career on the PGA Tour. It was legendary, but he always had his differences. He always found something to fight the tour about. He disagreed with all the say the PGA Tour had and where he could and could not play. In '87, Greg said that the tour could go to hell. Wait till you hear what that was about. See, he said this because he was mad at being questioned about playing in apartheid South Africa. Yep, I don't know about the PGA Tour, but his own moral compass sure points straight to hell. But it didn't end there. In '94, the Aussie star introduced his idea of a world golf tour with a very high purse. That rings a bell. It shakes like a frickin' tambourine. This idea was overwhelmingly rejected by the PGA Tour officials and its members. That opposition was famously led by Arnold Palmer, just like this one's being led by McIlroy and Woods. The difference is that now he's got the money and the platform to get back on tour, and he's doing exactly that. So yeah, it's no surprise that the fans of traditional golf and the loyal PGA members dislike him all that much. How much, you ask? The PGA members want Norman out. Norman's motivation is one thing, but the impact on golf is what matters here. We're seeing a feud of an unprecedented unprecedented scale, and it just can't be good for anyone involved. Which is why even a staunch critic like Rory McIlroy believes it's time the two circuits make peace. But he said it's impossible, while Norman is LIV's leader. Why's that? Well, because Rory said there has to be an adult in the room. And yeah, the reason the 68-year-old can't seem to be the adult this situation needs is what Davis Love III calls his vendetta. Long before McIlroy, Davis had said clearly that Greg Norman only pretends to want peace with the tour, and now the four-time major champion has also echoed that thought. Also, he's not the only one. Shortly after the Northern Irishman suggested peace was possible only if the current LIV CEO resigned, Tiger Woods came forward and said the same thing. The Spanish star Jon Rahm also believes things are complicated with Norman because he's not simply the CEO of a golf circuit. The way Rahm sees it, the 68-year-old had ulterior motives because of the vengeance he's had for 30 years. But when it comes to Rory, he's got a personal beef with the Aussie. McIlroy's patience has run out. Oh yeah, this beef is properly seasoned. So the current #1 began having disagreements with the Shark in 2020. By then, LIV was just a premature idea. Rory hated the idea so much, he fell out with Norman. That's so McIlroy of him. But then, in 2022, the four-time major winner saw Greg Norman's documentary and was reminded of what a great golfer the Australian really is. And he was also reminded of something else. Greg had offered a lot of support to McIlroy after his 2011 Masters heartbreak. And, well, the 33-year-old decided it was time to fix the relationship, despite the differences. And, surprisingly, it went pretty well. Rory said they had a nice back and forth on text, and it seemed like their friendship was once again intact. Remember what I said about Norman and things that are intact? Yes. Shortly after, the Australian gave an interview and began slandering McIlroy. And how is the relationship between these two right now? It's the result of a promise the world #1 made to himself after that. A promise to be a pain in Norman's tush. But hey, he's hardly the only one with such a harsh opinion of the Aussie CEO. Norman's fan club is microscopic. What he did to Rory wasn't even surprising because of what he did to Jack Nicklaus. Norman looked up to golf legend Jack as a father figure, and the Aussie famously had a troubled relationship with his own father. So this support meant a lot. But then, last year, Greg threw it all in the bin and talked trash about his former close friend, calling him a hypocrite. Yep, that's not cool. But what's interesting is that back when he was a star golfer and was something of a celebrity, he was faking his persona. Last year, an interviewer recalled his experience from 1995. This interviewer approached Norman for a chat, and the Aussie star was so rude to him that it was shocking. But then, as soon as the cameras started rolling, he became the charming person his fans knew him as. It seems like the 1992 Masters champion, Fred Couples' dislike also dates back to around that same time. Because why else would he say, nobody's liked Norman in 25 years? Anyway, that's all you need to know about Norman's reputation in the golfing world. See you in the next video.